It's a little bit something I close a little bit the circle, because I'm very proud to say that both Basel and Geneva are both first movers in our initiative as well, and I think it's very consequential that they are so far approaching this very innovative innovative strategies. My presentation will be a bit more theoretical, but perhaps, as Lucas said, we need to focus on the approach as well, which means from our experience, you can only achieve these very ambitious goals if you have a good system behind. And I think perhaps Nadine and also Lucas can agree that perhaps Energiestadt also a little bit laid the ground for some of these initiatives that are now going on, but long years ago. Yes, I would like to present to you this label Energiestadt, Energy City, City de l'Energie, however you would like to call it, what it is and how the system works. It's a real bottom-up approach, which was initiated about 30 years ago. So the cities did recognize their power and scope of action for environmental issues, and but they didn't see a real good program on the national level. And together with the World Wildlife Fund that supported this engagement of the cities, there was this initiative called Energiestadt, and which led to some kind of grassroots approach. And in 1990, there was a 10 years moratorium on nuclear power plants, which also boosted these initiatives. And then in 1991, we had the first Energiestadt, which was Schaffhausen, that got awarded. And yes, it led to the founding of an association, which is still present, and which is an association of municipalities.
אני שומע, אבל יש שם מלא רעש על הקו.
Eitan, can you turn your mic off, please?
I muted him.
Okay, thank you. So it then led to the founding of an association from municipalities for municipalities, and this is what is Energiestadt today. So this is in German, unfortunately. I'm sorry, but it a little bit shows the way where we were going in the last years, from the first Energiestadt to additional cities joining from different areas in Switzerland. We had from the Swiss French part participants, and we achieved that. We have cities that achieve a gold standard, which is much higher. So there is 30 years of experience in this program. This is where we are today. So today we are at about 650 municipalities participating, and more than 60% of citizens of Switzerland live in an energy city. So this is quite good, and it's a huge initiative and has a really big impact. So the question is, why municipalities? So we have recognized that the cities and towns have a huge potential for action. So on a local level, you have a huge multiplication effect. You can share experiences, examples of the municipality that also leads to action in private households as well, or trade, industry, commercial areas. You have immediate awareness of projects, of success and results if you act on local level, and you can show the feasibility and viability of the policies that are available. So the measures and action on municipal level leads also to investment of local trade and industry. So we have a huge impact on local added value. So you don't have to be that much dependent on foreign energy sources. You get more local added value, and it leads to a better quality of life of inhabitants. So after that, Energiestadt was developed in Switzerland. We succeeded to also bring it to other areas in Europe and to found some kind of association on also international level, and by that get a huge active network for sharing experiences. And this is what it's today. And it shows that the system is ideal and possible to be adapted to other national circumstances. So, as I said, we achieved to have an international association on the Energiestadt system, which is called European Energy Award, and it is some kind of an initiative that has as a goal to implement an energy management system in a municipality. It's the aim to have a customized energy management system for better plan, implement, monitor local the energy policy. So it gives a frame for understanding what you have to do, how you have to do it, and how you can achieve your goals. So and we saw this some of these pictures we saw today already with the presentation of Basel, that 30, 40 years ago, there was a huge problem with environmental issues, and nowadays, today, there are a possibility of swimming in the Rhine River. So, this led. This was led by a continuous improvement of the work, and this is what we want to achieve: continuous improvement, a continuous way on achieving your goals. And what Energiestadt delivers, there are a lot of other systems around, but what we think it's kind of unique selling point of this system is that you get a concrete guidance through customized tools. You have a continuous accompaniment and support by advisors, and you have a nationally tailored management system. It's not something which is for the whole world the same. It's really adapted to your needs, and it's the base for planning and assessment on the qualitative way. It helps to have local leadership and scope for action, local authorities really considered in what you're doing, and it respects these circumstances. We are trying to address all areas which are in any way addressed or in any responsibility of the local administration, coming from urban and spatial planning to the own buildings, to energy waste and wastewater where it is relevant, to transport mobility topics, also internal organization, finance, cooperation, communication. So also the soft measures, also on participation and the work with the citizens is addressed here, and we check what can be done, what is done, how can we improve on that. And that leads to some kind of process of continuous improvement, political commitment, finding structures, setting up an energy team, doing some kind of initial review, implement, act, develop an action plan, and then monitor this. And then if you are successful, you can achieve a certification. But this is not a one circle that you do. It's something that you have to repeat every 4 years. You have to stay on track, and we have now in Switzerland half of these 450 cities that are in the system are implementing the system for more than 12 years. So they are really appreciating this long-term sustainability of this project. And yes, and then when it comes to the certification and the auditing, they are quite proud to also show to their citizens and to other cities what they have done. So these different steps are very important in achieving the goals and in repeating always the system and join the lessons or share the lessons learned you have. And yes, this is my last slide, a statement, and also, yeah, you can see the city of Bern, Energiestadtmeister, Champions League. So they are the best now in Switzerland at the moment, but yes, it changes every year. And they are very proud of it. So I think it's also nice to show what you have done and to communicate that.
Absolutely, thank you. And Jeremy?
That's
questions,
wonderful.
Comments?
Thank you, Máireann. That's really amazingly interesting, and I think it kind of does wrap up the two specific examples we had earlier, and brings into perspective a more general approach and overlook. I do want to stress here in Israel, we're 90%, over 90% of the population lives in cities. So whenever we deal with cities, it's definitely critical for the sustainability here in Israel. And 74% of the population live in 77 cities. So even not too many cities. And I would even say more than that, a third, more or less a third of the population live in the Tel Aviv metropolitan area. That means dealing with cities here in Israel is definitely a huge opportunity for change. It is a place, we're a small and crowded country. It's a place where if we have tools as you presented, it could create a big positive impact. But of course, we have many challenges, and while you were down, the internet was disrupted with you. So we chatted a bit with Orly, and I'm happy that Orly is still here on the screen, because there are challenges to adopt those kind of the initiative, basically some kind of management system or energy management systems as you offer. And I would be very happy to hear your perspective, because here in Israel, the way we work is we're bright, we have innovation. You saw Tel Aviv has all of those great ideas, and other places have, but we're very incremental in the way we address things. We address it a bit here, a bit there. And you present a more stable, a more management overlooking system. Could you address a little those differences between an incremental approach and a more managed approach? How do you see the differences, and what benefits we could have from an approach that you have at the Energiestat?
Yes, what we experience is that a lot of municipalities, cities, or also villages, I think each size is somehow addressed. They want to do something, but a lot of them don't have a lot of resources, financial resources, or also staff resources, and so they need to be very careful where to start with, where to set the priorities, what is the best way of investing. And what really helps is to have a structured approach that leads them to the point to decide on these priorities, and to make sure that they invest in the best way. And so that's something I think that is very helpful. It's also good to start with projects, and it's always good to have some results, to see projects. We also focus on being implemented orientated. We don't want to have a lot of resources binded by this energy management system. This is why we try to deliver a lot of guidance and standards in advance. But with no energy management system, it's really difficult to be able to decide where to invest your resources. And so this is where we really try to find some kind of balance between administrative issues like energy management system and implementing projects. And so I think the balance is quite well in this system.
Okay.
It's a question.
Yes, please, Orly.
One last, I just wanted to conclude and say that the question of balance, or the question of whether we're succeeding in mainstreaming the climate change and mainstreaming sustainability, or whether it's just an array of different pieces of the puzzle that are not connected. And I think this is what you're referring to Jeremy, that we have a lot of pieces, they're not necessarily connected. And what we're seeking all the time is the connection. And what we saw today were different pieces of a puzzle, but I think I was under the impression that one of the things that we can learn from the Swiss examples are the frameworks and the connections and the mainstreaming of these issues. And if you allow me to conclude our discussion on this point, unless you have something really important to say.
I had only one. We had only one. The others don't leave the most important part neglected. The others had much more time. But give us one or two more questions. I know we're
go ahead.
We're beyond. We're in, you know,
we're okay.
Some extra time, but building on what you said, yes, and putting the puzzle together, Máren, I would be very interested to hear one or two insights of how this environmental management system works. How do, let's say, you know, we understand the advantages, but can you kind of give, you know, I can help you because it's an unfair question. It's a very big question, an open question. But for example, there is a well-known phrase that if you don't measure things, you cannot manage them. Or if you don't, so how do you, with your systems, with your environmental, your energy management system, what do you really provide? What is this starting point or this process? That give us a bit more examples, something more tangible.
Yes, perhaps how it works. It's we have a catalog of measures, and this catalog of measures shows with each measure what is the ideal status that we want to achieve, and then we get into discussion with the municipality. What did you achieve there? For example, if it comes to let's say the municipal buildings, or the ideal standard would be, one measure would be, do you have an energy performance of all your own buildings? And that is the question that we said. If you would have an energy management for all of your buildings and energy performance review, that would be ideal. And then we try to get into the discussion with the municipalities. Yes, we know about the city hall, but we do not know about the schools. So, and then we try to find out where is the status, where stand they, and what could be the next steps in achieving a better performance. And then we put this in an action plan, and we try to find out who could do this, what kind of resources do you need, and we go into the implementation, and 1 year later we come back and check, or half a year later we come back and check. So how did that work? Did you get into a process of achieving the data for the performance of the buildings, and so on and on? It becomes a more comprehensive view of what is the situation in the city, what can you do, and where can you go from there. I think that's very important. I had one example of the municipality that years ago tried to have a district heating system. Everybody says it's not possible, it's too expensive, and each year they tried to check again what are the circumstances, what are the framework rules, and now after 5-6 years they came to the point where they saw now the circumstances have changed. Now it's a good idea and a good situation for trying again for the district heating. If they wouldn't have checked annually what they can do, they would have never come to this decision and to this point. They would have neglected this idea, and then it would put into a drawer and never looked at it again. So the continuous check is really, really helpful.
That's wonderful. It's good to hear that it's a play between the municipality itself and an institution that is overarching the energy stat that helps the municipalities manage it. That means it's not only within the municipality, because manpower can change, mayors can change, and then agendas can move. But if it's some kind of long-term commitment, I see definitely the value of it.
But it still needs the ownership of the municipality. It's not
the ownership of the municipality, but it's your, I suppose, some kind of external guidance.
We really need to conclude.
I know Oli is doing those movements. Oli, okay, but I do want to look. It's something you said, Oli. We have this tender now, right, for municipalities to come with some kind of climate plan. But when I read this tender, it is really, really vague. It has very little information. Very little guidelines. the criteria and the points of evaluating if a municipality is eligible or not is based on how many participants. One of the criteria, at least, is how many participants from within the municipality, and it seems very, very loose and not something that is yet put in a more, I would say, rigid or strict performance-based agenda to say, okay, if you're in a municipality, taking just the example that you said here, Máren, okay, do you manage all of your municipal buildings? Do you have a system that regulates your energy consumption or lowers your energy consumption? How is your energy efficiency as a municipality? And things that you showed, soft things of waste collection, other things that you wouldn't immediately consider as climate change, but are definitely part of climate change. I think it's lacking here, and there's a lot to learn. I understand that also you're working not only in Switzerland, also in developing countries. Maybe the last question would be, how do you see the difference between working in a developed country in Switzerland? I know there's much more financing there, or I suppose there's more financing there, and help vis-a-vis developing countries, that their financial situation is maybe closer to what Israel is in, where there's always budgetary, well, all over the world there's budgetary issues, but especially now under COVID-19 and as resources become more scarce, what would be your insight, just to make us more optimistic about taking your system and implementing it here? And that'll be my last question.
Having money is helpful, right? For implementing projects, but what we see in the developing country is a little bit a different kind of approach. We use the system in order to find out what are the best projects that the municipality can do, and use that for getting money, for example, from international donors. So they also need some kind of reliable system if municipalities, cities want to apply for projects. They need some kind of reliable systems which show there is a monitoring and the process behind, so the money is invested in a good way. And for example, in Switzerland, we focus very much on the voluntary part of what municipalities can do in addition to what is obligatory on the in the legal compliance. But in other countries, for example, in Serbia, where we are working now, we are trying to adapt the system to supporting the municipality in at least achieving their legal obligations, which is already a huge effort for them. So that is also a possibility. I think it's flexible enough to react on the local circumstances and the national needs and problems.
That brings up the issue of, would it be possible to expand it to Israel? But I won't even let you answer that, because I'd like to conclude, to invite the ambassador of Switzerland to conclude the seminar, Mr. Jean-Daniel Rouche. We're sorry you weren't able to open the seminar, but at least you'll be able to close it. And thank you for the cooperation.
Thank you very much for the cooperation. Actually, it's much better to close it, because now I have much more inspiration than at the beginning. I would really like to thank you and to thank all the persons from Switzerland and Israel, especially from the cities, because that was the focus, who participated in this seminar. This was the first event in this new program we have launched, which we call Wake Up Diplomacy Towards a Healthy Future. And we were really encouraged to start. We were really encouraged to start by focusing on municipalities, and not just to start, maybe also to continue. Because for the simple fact that the cities, the municipalities all over the world are at the forefront of fighting the consequences of climate change. In 1950, only 30% of the world population was living in the cities. Today, it is almost 60% worldwide. In countries like Israel, we have heard it is 90%. We know that in Switzerland, it is over 80%. So from that point of view, we are very similar. And I think we are really facing very similar challenges. Plus, we are countries with roughly the same size in terms of population. And we are in the Champions League regarding innovation. So I do believe we have to continue these exchanges, which can be fruitful on both sides. There is maybe one difference which has been hinted at. I've seen it also in some of the questions on which we could focus for the future. You were talking about how do you make sure, somebody was asking, how do you make sure that when there is a change of government, for instance, that the policy will remain the same? Well, maybe we should say here that the participation of citizens is not only on a voluntary basis, but the citizens have also the right, both at the federal and at the local level, to challenge what the local government has been deciding, or to propose something. We have this wonderful institution of the referendum at all levels, and I think in Basel and Geneva, it's enough to collect 3,000 signatures to force a vote, a referendum, either on a decision taken by the municipality that you don't like, or to propose something that you would like. For instance, in Geneva in 2019, there was a votation on the prohibition, or at least a drastic limitation, of some chemicals on the territory, which is obviously also connected to the safe environment. And the other thing, there was a bit of talk on money. Big difference between Israel and Switzerland is that the cities and the cantons, so the local level, has a large degree of financial autonomy and also of competencies. So this is maybe one area where we could focus in the future, because that definitely plays a role. And if a government wants to change a policy which has been established, and he faces a referendum on this change, he will definitely think twice before forcing such a change, which would not be popular. Sustainability is even more so a domestic and foreign policy priority for Switzerland nowadays, that the green movement in Switzerland has become relatively sizable. 21% of the seats in the national parliament are being occupied by the two green parties that we have, and which is also a major difference with Israel. Well, we will certainly continue. This is a foreign policy priority of Switzerland. We will continue in this series. And I would like to invite you all for our next event. You can see all the details on our website, and I think you have all seen where you can find it. The next event will be on 28th of October. It will be a discussion with a philosopher and professor in the University of Lausanne, who will speak about ethics in facing the climate change crisis, and also ethical implications of the current coronavirus crisis. And we are doing that this time in partnership with the Heschel Center for Sustainability. Again, thank you all, and I hope you will all be interested to participate in our next events and to visit also our website, where you will find all sorts of information, cartoons, and many other things. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody who helped organize this very inspiring and interesting webinar, and also the people behind the scenes, Anat, Nir, Roni, I'm probably forgetting somebody, Livne. So thank you, everybody. And in addition to the ambassadors preview on the upcoming event, I'd like to add the two additional webinars on the 14th of October, again, same time slot, on flooding and stormwater management. This time it's going to be in Hebrew. And then the third webinar is dedicated to trees in the city on the 21st of October. And we'll conclude after the seminar on the 28th that the ambassadors just described. On the 4th of November, we'll conclude the series with a seminar dedicated to urban climate policy in Israel from the national level and the local level. So again, thanks everybody, and hope to see you in our next webinar on the 14th of October. And Chag Sameach, everybody.